Hey, good evening. My name is Bob Breen. I'm the Chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals, Town of North Reading. Welcome to tonight's meeting. This is a continued meeting of the three matters that we put over from our July 11th meeting. The agenda is limited only to those three matters. And I appreciate all the parties agreeing to continue due to the unavailability of one of our voting members. In order to meet quorum, we need three members. As I noted at that time, we couldn't, while one was available, wasn't going to be able to complete the meeting. We do have a quorum tonight. Myself, Brendan Riley, and Michelle Bodian are going to be hearing the matters this evening. We live in a strange world, and I've kind of come to notice that with increased heat, literally temperature, a lot of the tech that we run into gets a little wonky. So I apologize for that. I appreciate any patience with it, but that's, and we'll do our best to get through the meeting. The convenience of remote is sometimes weighed against the ability to maintain these things technically. So the trade-off, I hope, is understandable and is tolerated and will something we can work through this evening. So with that being said, I'd like to open tonight's meeting. And with that, the first matter is regarding 22 Mount Vernon Street. Hearing notice that went out noted that on the petition of Bernard Sutherland of 22 Mount Vernon Street, North Reading, Mass, map 55, parcel 91, requesting a height variance of an accessory structure according to the requirements outlined in the dimensional and density regulations of the North Reading zoning bylaws. Mr. Sutherland and or anybody on behalf of Mr. Sutherland, are you with us tonight?
Yep, I'm here for 22 Mount Vernon. I'm Bernard Sutherland.
Okay, great. Mr. If you could, why don't you tell us about your request for the variance and what's your plan for making use of the property?
Okay, so basically we've got a little bit under 4 acres total area to play with. My wife and I are not overly happy with having to maintain such a large pool. So we'd like to take out the pool and put in an amenity unit. That's for the storage of items that I need to bring up from Texas to Massachusetts that we've just come here. We've just relocated from Texas to Massachusetts. So we're requesting the height variance so that the building itself doesn't have an industrial tone. Part of the reason we moved up to Massachusetts is because it's pretty, right? So the height variance would allow us to keep in keeping with the neighborhood and the environment, and with our property as well, because our barn, I believe, is 30 feet, the house is 30 feet. So the proposed structure would be, a little bit below that so that it all ties in nicely.
And when you know that you're going to be storing items, I mean, is that?
Yeah, so basically I have an aircraft that I'm turning into an aircraft simulator. So the height variance allows me to have room where I can get above the tail section. So this is a low impact, no noise aircraft. It doesn't really affect my neighbors at all, because the environment is simulated. It's not physical.
So the build up, the variance is really to allow for the placement of a flight simulator.
Yeah, so that we get the visuals, right? So that I can so I can build a big enough screen that when I tilt my head backwards, I can, see the out the window view. And the other thing for the variance is it keeps in the overall aesthetic of the of North Reading.
It allows the pitch of the roof.
What?
It allows the pitch of the roof to be the same as everyone else.
Yeah. So, as my wife was telling me, it allows the pitch to be the same with everyone else in our surrounding area. Does that make sense?
I think that's an open question.
Is this flight simulator for you for personal use?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You know, the only difference between men and boys is the price of their toys, right?
Yeah, it's a surprising use. I was not expecting that.
That's what?
She wasn't expecting that use. Nobody expects it.
Yeah, true. Nobody expects it.
Oh, okay.
Have you spoken to your neighbors about this at all?
Yes, have we, yes, she
I've got
asked, have you
I've
spoken
got
to
it.
the
I've got. I
neighbors?
can hear it.
Okay, then why
Okay.
did you tell her?
Yeah. So I've spoken to all of my surrounding neighbours within the abutment list. A couple of them came over and asked if we're building tall apartments. So all of my immediate neighbours are all on board with it. They think it's somewhat cool, to be honest.
And Maria, sorry, Kathy, there's no letters of support, correct? I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything in the packet.
I don't believe we had any, no.
Okay. But also no letters of objection?
No.
Okay.
And it's
So if you look at the
strictly
plot
just
plan.
sorry, it's strictly just a storage barn. There's gonna be no restrooms or anything else inside of it. It's just
Well, no, I don't want to have to walk up to the house at my age to have to go to the bathroom. Obviously, at some stage, I'm going to put a bathroom in, but I think what I'm looking for at this stage is just, the height variance approval so that I can sit down with the engineers and actually plan what needs to be done so that it follows suit, right? I mean, does that make sense?
yes.
Thank you. So we're basically going over the pool area. So we're taking that pool out and going where the pool is.
Including the removal, is that a pool house, pool shed?
Well, it's actually a chicken coop used as a pool shed, I think. I mean, we've inherited that pool, for want of a better word. So we never purchased the property with the intent of maintaining a pool. We bought the property because it's roughly 4 acres. It's got wetlands at the back. The plot plan will show that we've got 300 feet roughly of play area before we even get to the wetlands, and that's an ideal location for me to be able to put the aircraft simulator. So effectively, what we've done, or what I've done, is if you look at the plot plan and you go to the left of the line, we get on rather well with our neighbors there. They're ER physicians, so we speak the same language, so there's not a problem.
And that's 18 Mount Vernon, you're saying is comfortable with this?
Yeah, same with the people across the road, same with the people over on our right-hand side. Over on the right, we've got wetlands that go down that property line there, so you've probably got another 50, 60 feet before you even see their houses. Right, so it's going to be designed in such that it's not an eyesore, right? No one wants an eyesore next to them.
The existing barn, sorry, I just want to make sure the audio, the existing barn that's there, that's gonna stay, I mean, there's not gonna be any other changes to the,
No, so what we'll do is we'll refurbish the barn at a later date, keeping it with what it is. Right, it has solid foundations. It's got a little bit of rotten wood in it, but we're going to retain the barn as it is. We're not going to tear that down at all.
And the front, so I've been down Mount Vernon, I know I've seen the far end of your property just from the street by driving by, that's where the pool is located. But
I'm sorry, I'm having difficulty hearing you.
Try it again, Bob.
So I've lost photo. The can you,
Bernie, can you hear him now?
I've been down the street and I'm interested in knowing how what kind of frontal landscaping you're going to do, because right now you've just got a pool. There's trees that, separate the pool or shrubs or whatever you have on your, I can't specifically remember, but there's no view of the pool from the street as you pass by it. Obviously,
there is.
the barn will be differently set up.
No, no.
So the tree, we're going to do everything we can to keep the trees, okay.
So we're going to retain the tree line as it is, because where the pool house is, it already has off-road access that's been put in previously. So we're just moving roughly about 5 feet of rock wall. Does that answer your question?
So, I mean, a more. So just to understand, once you make these, once you build this, no longer have a pool on your property, now you have, in theory, 2 barns. I mean, as I more or less look at this, it's you could call it a detached garage. I mean, but it is basically, you have the existing barn, now you're gonna have you're basically building a structure over your pool.
No,
And
we have to take the pool out in its entirety. Those are the rules.
Okay, on the footprint of your pool, this is where the structure's gonna go. Okay,
Yeah.
and in that structure, you're going to set up a flight simulator and whatever else, you're using for storage. So your property is now going to have 2 accessory structures, one being the barn that's already in place, the new built accessory structure
Yeah.
for the project that you've described to us.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that everybody is just going to simply hold on to their property for the rest of, their lives is reasonable. But at some point, it seems that, so the sole purpose of this variance is just to facilitate, accommodate your ability to put the flight simulator in the accessory structure. If you were just using it for storage, it wouldn't. This is your true need. You can't. There's no way to build this accessory structure to a lower height.
Well, no, because it'll look industrial. It'll look hickledy-pickledy. It won't tie in with the neighbor's property immediately to the right. It won't tie into the neighbor's properties across the road. I think it would be somewhat of an eyesore with a 20-foot height, considering that everyone around me with according to the abuttal list all have 30 foot plus. So we're talking to the apex, right? We're talking to the apex of the roof, the point.
You're asking for 6 additional feet.
We're what?
You're asking for 6 additional feet.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, what we're looking for is 6 additional feet.
Again, I'm looking, as much as you're
just for your purpose, you know, we're looking for a compelling need, if you will, in order to step outside the bylaw that was established, because when these bylaws were enacted, building heights were a concern. They just didn't want people, residents, builders, owners, just placing structures at different heights. So there's a uniformity for accessory structures. Now it's 6 feet is not substantial, I'll grant you, but at the same time, I'm trying to establish that there's
My house is 30 foot,
building
right?
accessory
My
structures.
house is 30
More
foot
things
plus,
that-
right? The barn is 30.
Just for storage,
What?
you really have to go with this roof on this accessory structure be any higher than the one on the barn that's already on your property.
No, it'll be 4
Trying to
foot
establish
less.
this for purposes of understanding your need to get a variance, that it's really for the purpose of the flight simulator that you're going to use the accessory structure for.
Correct.
Truly, it's for the purposes of aesthetics, because at 20 foot, it looks like an industrial building. And at 26 feet, we can get the 612 or whatever the pitch is.
512, yeah.
The pitch that is standard for all of the houses on the street.
Okay, I appreciate you're trying to maintain the
We're trying to be consistent with the look and feel of the houses that are in the neighborhood.
Because the new builds just over from us, the next street over, they're 35. Right? And those are brand new builds.
Houses can be 35 feet in height, accessory structures can only be 20. But you
Correct.
need this
Why
extra
we're applying
space
for
for
the
the
variance,
tail on the
right?
plane, correct?
Well,
Stop
You
speaking.
need the extra 6 feet for the tail on the plane, wasn't that what you said?
correct.
Right, that's why you need it.
Well,
Right? But also so the building itself looks pretty, right? As you know, like as was mentioned previous, if the building is ugly and we go to sell at a later date, which we may or may not do, if we've got something that looks somewhat industrial, it's going to be it's going to be a hard sell.
well, it's just, and it's not, we don't want it to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to look at an ugly building. Oh my
I'm familiar with every building in this town. Do you have any thoughts, insights, comments?
What's the question again, sorry?
He's
I'm
asking
asking
Jeff,
the building inspector, Mr. Noel, given his familiarity with the town, the accessory structures that are already in place, if he has any thoughts on this variance application.
Yeah, we have quite a few accessory structures that are in place, and they pretty much some of them are well over some are over 26 feet. Some are 24 feet, some are 22, but I wouldn't say there's a lot of them, but there are a decent amount of homes within the town of North Reading that do have an adjusted height.
And in past requests for height variances, what might be the concern of the town, in particular your office, if there is one, or is it just dependent upon, as all these are, it's just every individual application and situation?
Exactly what you said. What you just said, it all depends on individual application. It's just the zoning bylaw. It doesn't, it's not anything for my office at all.
Okay, thank you. Just to be clear for the, as we move the matter along, so notice went out, Kathy, I saw that. Thank you for including that in the file. And there were no submissions by neighbors or related parties, most especially those living on Mount Vernon that we know of?
I didn't get a response from any of the neighbors.
Okay.
There was 32 of them, by the way.
Excuse me?
There was 32 notices went out.
You.
Thank you. Does the board have any further questions of the Sutherlands?
So Jerry, I directed to you. He mentioned the addition of a bathroom potentially in the future. Would you see that being an issue? Is the septic in place large enough to accommodate that, or would that need to go obviously to Board of Health for approval?
That's something that we really shouldn't be considering. Reason being that is a Board of Health issue and it's a septic issue. I think we're getting off track, and we need to make
Gotcha.
sure that we're sticking with the intent of what he's looking for, which is the height variance.
Yep.
If the board doesn't have any further questions of the Sutherlands, and since they're the only parties to the matter, does anybody want to move to close the public hearing and bring it into consideration by the board?
Yeah, I can. I'm Michelle Bodian. Just forgot my name there. Move to close the public hearing.
Brendan Riley, second.
All in favor?
Michelle Bodian, aye.
Brendan Riley, aye.
Paul Green, aye. So board, clearly the party, the Sutherland 22 Mount Vernon is asking for effectively to go 6 feet higher, and based upon what they said, it was a representation to maintain a better maintain or provide a consistency with the pitch on the accessory structure, so that it looks less, as they put it, industrial. And it, I'm just open to any concerns or thoughts on it. And again, I think they did establish that they needed the height for their intended purpose, which is the flight simulator, kind of a dynamic use of an accessory structure. I'd be hard pressed to believe there's anybody else in town that might have one. But at this time, it would seem that if they don't get the 6 feet, they wouldn't be able to place the tail structure. I think Kathy mentioned that. Pose that to Mr. Sutherland in order to do this. So, thoughts, please.
I think given that it's only 6 feet and, while an aesthetic hardship might not be what we normally consider, I'm willing to consider it here, given that it's minimal ask for additional height, and it would tie in better with the neighborhood.
On that thought, the idea of hardship being aesthetic, it's an interesting characterization and premise, but it would seem to me that if they rather than going flat across and basically putting a cube that would hold it, it does allow for some aesthetic effect. And 6 feet doesn't seem to be that dramatic, especially if the width of the structure allows that pitch to remain sloped as it was in the drawings. So I'm pleased by that. I think the greater hardship is the purpose of the accessory structure, which I think, as other matters that have been before this board or maybe going forward, is always relevant to in allowing in and of itself or a consideration of the need for an accessory structure. And in this case, if you took the flight simulator out of the equation, then they're just building an accessory structure that wouldn't need the height variance. So I think they're one and the same, or they're tied together inherently. So, but again, as Michelle noted, and I think I appreciate that 6 feet doesn't seem to be that much of an ask, given that it does allow for a more aesthetic and consistent neighborhood construction. Brendan, any thoughts?
I would tend to agree. I don't see the 6 feet being that much of an ask, and it is more in line with the aesthetics of the surrounding homes. Additionally, he had mentioned that he needs the additional height in order to accommodate, I believe it was the tail of the simulator. So that does present a slight hardship in and of itself.
And the other thing I think the board, as we consider the vote, Inspector Noel did note that there are, accessory structures throughout the town that he's much more familiar with, and I appreciate his insight, is that they're all relevant to the situation. So while there doesn't seem to be any that suggests there's no consistency, in this case, I think that there's some I appreciate the fact that the party is explaining the purpose and not in a situation where they're just trying to say, we're just going to build this, we want it, just because, for lack of a better phrase, we want it this way. So there's nothing more. I welcome any offer to close the hearing and or call for a vote. Or move. Does anybody want to bring a motion?
I can as soon as I pull up the motions. Yeah, I move to grant a 6 foot height variance for an accessory garage to Mr. Sutherland, 22 Mount Vernon Street, North Reading, map 55, parcel 91.
Hi, Brendan Riley, second.
Thank you, Brendan. All in favor of the grant of a 6 foot height variance?
Michelle Bodie and I.
Brendan Riley, aye.
Bob Rain, aye. Thank you, Ford. So, Kathy, if you could, since you've got probably the ability, could you inform Mr. and Mrs. Sutherland of the process from tonight's grant?
Once the decision is signed by members, stamped in with the town clerk, it starts a 20-day appeal period. After that time, you can take a true attest copy from the town clerk, get it recorded, and then you can apply for your building permit. You have to build within a year for that variance.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We very much appreciate it.
All right, good luck with your project, and thank you for your patience and your courtesy in allowing us to put this over to tonight. Good luck with your project.
Awesome. Thank you.
Happy flying.
Oh, it's going to be fun. I've got to bring it up from Texas now. Oh, boy.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, everybody,
Thank
for
you.
joining this evening. We do very much appreciate it.
We on our next matter on tonight's agenda. It's regarding 34 Main Street, a freestanding sign. Are the parties here for 34 Main Street?
Yes.
Okay.
Ed,
Regarding the hearing notice, a virtual public hearing will be held on today, continued from Thursday, continued to hearing from July 11th till today, July 25th, 2024, on the petition of Ed Spinney from Sign Art representative for Be Warm LLC for a variance from section 200-81 of the North Reading zoning bylaws for a freestanding sign at 34 Main Street, map 23, parcel 25, North Reading. Is Mrs. Spinney and or any other party from Be Warm LLC with us this evening?
Yes, Mr. Spinney present from Sign Art Inc.
Great, thank you. So Mr. Spinney, if you could take a moment and enlighten the board and anybody from the community listening, what the request set is on.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my client is looking to, and already has added a tenant to his building. So he needs another small tenant sign, which we are trying to keep with the neighborhood area and not get this thing too big. And he's also changed his logo and image. So all of his new stuff looks like the signage that we're proposing on his vehicles and all his marketing and website, etc. The existing sign is his old image. So between making the new image and adding a tenant, we are slightly over the size allowed, and we're requesting respectfully a small amount of increase so that we can clean up the old sign, make it look good, and give the new tenant a space to have their name and information. The sign already exists, and we're just really making it slightly larger. We're trying to keep it as small as we can to get everything in there that we need to. If there's any questions, be happy to go through them or answer them or try.
The proposed sign, the current sign, is it neon or light up with what would look like the Broco oil and or the clock? I can understand that's illuminates, but you're adding what looks like the new logo, change of business from Broco oil to Broco Energy, and then what is
Yes.
it, SM Brown as the
Yes.
tenant?
Yes, so the existing sign is internally lit with fluorescence. It's an older type sign where the letters are raised. It's called a pan face, and it's formed with heat. And then the little drop with the B in it is raised off of that, and that is lit with internal neon. The auto maintenance also has traditional lamps in it. So what we're proposing is an aluminum sign at the top where the cutout Broco, the energy will be cut out and the letters will be pushed through. So the background on the new sign will not light, where the background on the old sign lights up bright white. And then the B is going to be cut out shape and will have LEDs in it. So everything we put in here will have LEDs. The top section, the only thing that will light will be the yellow stripes, the B, the word Broco, and the energy. And then below, the cabinet will be lit with LEDs, and the entire face, like the auto maintenance face, will be internally lit with LEDs. So it's a low key. We're trying to make it a little classier, so we're covering the pole up with this little piece of aluminum underneath with some grooves in it, like we're making the siding actually at our shop. So it's cleans the whole thing up to look a little more high end, a little more professional for the street and the neighborhood.
And out of curiosity, do you expect this to have a longer life for purposes of working, as opposed to sometimes these signs lose image, or a letter might, in other words, blow out? And or does this address that or cure that? Not that you've had that problem that I know of with the existing sign, but I'm interested in always trying to know if the sign maintenance is going to be
Yep.
is
Good good question. We've been around 47 years. We're actually moving to town. We're building over by Kitty's right now. So we really try to build a high-end product, a good product. So the Broco would be letters that are called push through. So it's actually one giant chunk of white acrylic that's 1.25 inches thick that we hog out the background and slides through the aluminum face. And the aluminum is 1/8 inch welded aluminum. It's primed and painted with automotive grade paint. So in about 20 years, like a car, if your car didn't move and just sat in one spot, it might start to fade. But before then, it's going to look newer, longer. It's impossible for one letter to fall out because all the letters are attached. They still have a 1/4 inch section of that 1 1/4 all stuck together. So it pushes through from the back. Energy is cut out of the aluminum as well, but then there is one sheet of material on the inside that will be colored to their thing. So maintenance wise, I look at this as a very long-term product. Cost wise, he's willing to spend more than normal to make this a long-term product. And everything we build will have an internal aluminum frame, not a steel frame, and all of the exterior will be aluminum, and the bottom section will be pre-finished with a baked enameled matte black, and the upper section will be there again painted with the automotive base paint and matte with a matte clear on it, like a car. So maintenance wise, we don't want to fix them, we just want to build them. And we've got a good reputation around all of New England. And we honestly do not have any blowouts. I've never had anything blow out. I have had a couple of signs hit by cars and knocked over, but you know, the LEDs we use are the high-end LEDs with a 5-year warranty, so they're not the cheap Chinese ones that will blow out in a year. So we're probably good for 7 to 10 years on the LED life as well. And the energy is 80% less than what's there now for the clients, which is, I think, a good environmental situation.
Okay, and not that this is going to summarize it, but it's going to be 8 inches shorter, but effectively 20 inches wider.
Only on the one section. So the top section, actually, I tried to do a square foot analysis in the circles. If you look at the thing we submitted, so the top section is 31.5 square feet. And that is with the B included in a square. And if I include the existing sign with the droplet, it's at the top section is actually 43 square feet. So where we get over the square footage is adding that SM Brown, really. So the top section is shaped differently due to the new logo, but it's technically less square feet than what's there now for the name. I don't know if you followed that or if I confused you.
No, that's fine. And the relationship between Brown and Broco, to my understanding, they're separate but related.
It's a separate tenant, like Otto. I mean, SM Brown is a relation to the owner, but it's technically he's renting space and he has a different corporate name and a different logo and a different FID number and all. So he's a true tenant. So it's not like somebody putting them, not charging rent and calling themselves something else. So this is a true tenant with its own FID number and its own identity.
Is there a reason that the I mean, I know this is like an obvious reason why you'd want to keep I'm gonna ask the question anyway, bear with me. Looking at the height, it looks like if you had removed or placed separately the gas price, the gas 20 inches, then the side would be conforming. So is there a reason that you didn't consider pulling that out separately? I understand why you want all the company logos together, but is there a reason that couldn't be pulled out separately for a freestanding sign that's lower than the height requirement?
I don't think we're over the height requirement whatsoever. I think we just have a, are we over there? I thought we were just over the
No,
square footage.
it's the square footage, I think you're
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah, sorry,
And
that might have been.
it almost, yeah, you asked my question. I was gonna ask Michelle. It
You
almost
probably
seems
asked it
like,
better, so you ask it. Mine was
it
stumbling.
almost seems like if they obviously just, removed the price per gallon for the oil, then essentially that spot could be used for their new tenant.
Yeah.
So right now they didn't have a second tenant, so obviously they just used that spot to advertise their price per gallon, which technically would have been used for their second tenant. I mean, is it possible to shrink that any where it would still be legible for someone
Well, the
driving and then
LED
be
happens
under
to
the square
be,
footage?
the LED is currently existing and it's an expensive piece, so it's very difficult. He definitely needs that to help his business and market his business so he can be successful. So, he is really just like any plaza. And if we go up and down the highway, to the CVS area, all those signs are way bigger than this and they all have tenants. And we really don't think we're asking for a lot extra whatsoever. The top, we're bringing the sign down lower. We're cleaning it up, making it look more professional. We're making it a much sturdier, stronger piece. We're saving energy with it, and we're just adding one tenant. So I don't believe that he'd be willing to get rid of that, or and if you make it much smaller, you can't notice it. It's not an obtrusive looking sign, even with the addition. It's is classy looking, or classier than some in town that are in little plazas. I mean, once he separated this up, it should be considered a little plaza, I would think. That would be, if it's a little plaza, technically we are below the square footage for the head of the sign, which is the Broco Energy. So it's a little different than a plaza name. So we're just we're in the middle of an odd situation. But it is in keeping with all the signs up and down the road. It's not huge. It's a very small additional square footage, and he doesn't want to make it look nicer and spend a lot of money and lose his ability to advertise his price. So that's, I would think, his position, that if I ever said he could take that away, he'd probably kill me. But we really truly don't think that if you look at the footprint is just lower, and the top is technically smaller. It's just a different shape, which I think the different shape helps it look nicer and cleaner and neater. But that's an opinion. So we really respectfully request that we want to add our tenant and we want to clean it up. And we'd like to get some relief because we don't want to, physically say, oh, you can't put a tenant in here and lose the rents, and then, oh, you can't advertise your price. And there again, we don't think we're over, we've kept his sign to as minimal as possible, which is significantly smaller with the top section of his being 43 square feet and ours being 31 and a half. That's a significant difference. So I don't know if that helps or hurts, but that's the opinion, and we're just looking for some relief to help him be able to retain a tenant, which they want to advertise, and advertise his own product, which he sells as well.
And,
You're gonna
thanks.
So you're going to retain. Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, go ahead, sorry. Go right ahead.
Oh, I was going to say you're going to retain the existing LED sign, but everything else is going to be brand new footing, new post, new signage for all the tenants.
No new footing, no new post. We're retaining the post and the
Oh,
footing.
so you're just gonna put a cabinet around the I got you.
And we're essentially taking the old cabinets off and rebuilding all new
Rebuilding
cabinets.
cabinets.
And the pricing module, there's 2 modules will be fit into the new cabinet. So everything will look brand new.
Mm-hmm.
But the footing's been tested and so forth, and it appears that it's going to hold the windage with no problem.
And shrinking the top Broco Energy sign by a few inches here or there to get you within the conforming square footage would not be an option.
Well, he really would like to keep it the way it is, and the thing is, the conforming square footage is, you know, we're staying conforming with the new tenant square footage. So if you kind of backed out that square footage, we're almost even, you know, because we've already made Broco smaller than the other Broco. So Broco Energy is smaller than Broco Oil. The LED is the same and the auto maintenance is the same. And the only thing we're really adding is the SM Brown, which is the tenant. So it's a new tenant panel. The building now, you know, probably been by the building. The building is, this would be it. I mean, he can't cut this building up anymore into multi-tenants. This is about as many tenants as he can get in the structure. So we're just trying to keep the advertising for himself, give his new person advertising rather than telling him, no, you can't get on the sign. And actually, like I say, we made his smaller in square footage wise. It's just a different shape. So we
Jerry,
would,
can I ask you a question? Jerry? If one of those signs was added to the post separately, would that meet the requirement or the limit?
No, because it still is over the limit, but if I may, if you go up and down Main Street, there's a lot of signs that are out there that are larger than this sign. They're pre-existing non-conforming. There are a lot of signs that were, as Ed had pointed out, CVS, which went to a development plan through CPC, and they were allowed the signage. But anyway, with that said,
The only reason I'm asking is because, is it just because they're all one unit that they go over the square footage, or is it everything on the post is kind
it's
of?
everything on it's everything on the post.
Okay. Because
It's everything that's considered a sign.
It does look much better altogether than separated.
So would the auto inspection that's technically connected to the post, did that be considered additional signage as well, or no?
well, that's not going to be on our new post, that's for sure. I think technically it should be, but that's another
yes,
point.
that's what my,
you know.
okay.
So we're really, if we take that into consideration, even though it's illegal, I think, we're certainly not going to allow them to put that back up there. That's the whole concept of cleaning everything up and making everything look neat and clean. I mean, the town, you know, he's not a big development like the whole CVS thing, and they allow you to go to a planning meeting and make a big plan and do a master signage plan, and we're just trying to upgrade and get one tenant without spending millions of dollars on engineering and a master plan. And we know that we cannot fit anybody else in this building, and we truly believe that it's in keeping with the neighborhood up and down. If anything, like Jerry said, it's smaller than most. You know, the hardship is, you know, financial. If we can't put a tenant on there, we could potentially lose them. If we can't put our pricing on there, then we lose sales. So we're trying to play the middle and make it look neat, clean, and not obtrusive for the town. So, you know, even covering the pole, he's spending that extra money to do the pole covering, which makes it look much classier, and which will force this other person to remove that big, that's a 3x3 sign. So that's 3 times 3, that's another 6 square feet, plus they've stuck an arrow below it. All of that gobbledygook and junk will go away, and it will really be a much cleaner, neater look. So I don't know if any of that helped at all, or
Do you have any further comments regarding the signage as you run up and down 28? That, as you said, was non-conforming, conforming, and had already probably been in place before, or, you know, I just wanted to be sure you had an opportunity to finish that thought.
say again, I don't realize, I don't understand that question.
This is, I'm directing this to Mr. Noel.
Jerry, okay.
We're talking about the existing signage and the along Main Street 28, if you will. And if you had completed that thought, because I think you were noting that there was a lot of non-conforming that kind of created almost already existing hodgepodge, and I just wanted to know if that was what you were getting at, or if you thought that this wasn't within those or beyond those, or what you might have a thought that would help with this request.
As I stated prior, there's a lot of signs along within the highway business district that are basically larger than this sign. They're either pre-existing, they're non-conforming. They were either granted in a development type stage, or they were granted as a site plan and or a modification. But usually if it's a modification, it would have to come through the zoning board of appeals, but a lot of times prior, it didn't have to do that. And our zoning bylaws are very limited with the signage, which only allows them 40 square feet. And he's asking for, I think it's about, he shows 15 square feet overage. I calculated it at 13 square. So, and anyway, hopefully that answers your question.
That's all right. Thank you. So the hardship really is that, of course, that step outside the existing bylaw seems to be to effectively accommodate the parties that independently are housed in the building, and in order to overcome the excess beyond the bylaw, is it that the sign will just serve all purposes and actually be in some ways less, if not, or just better? And that's, I'm directing that to you, Mr. Sweeney.
I think our belief is, after running up and down the 28, that we're really upgrading this sign a lot. We're asking for a small increase, but not an increase that doesn't already exist, like Jerry said, in multiple places up and down, and a lot bigger than us. And if you know, if we can't get some relief, it will definitely cause a financial hardship in one way or another. And it will probably leave the sign the way it is, which I think isn't as clean and as neat and as long lasting as what we're proposing. So I hope that answers your question, but we really believe, you know, I am moving in town, and I'm hoping and thinking that we're going to, over the next 10, 15 years, clean up everything around and make everything look neater, cleaner, and more in keeping with each other than the hodgepodge type look. And this is a more modern, cleaner look to add to the existing cleaner signs. Like Jerry said, there's a ton of them that are just much bigger. Some of them with less tenants, no tenants. So we just think we're just asking a little bit, and we're hoping that that that's something you guys could see a way to help us get approved so that we can begin the cleanup process in our eyes. Sorry.
Okay, great, thank you. Are there any, thoughts or, anybody from the community that's in the meeting at this time that would like to, add something to the public hearing? Okay, hearing none, does the board have any further questions for, Mr. Spinney or effectively Inspector Noel?
I'm just gonna ask it for the record. I assume not being able to advertise the business would cause financial harm to said businesses?
Say again?
If you're not able to get this sign and therefore not able to advertise that the business is there, that would cause financial harm to the business if no one knows they're there?
Absolutely. If nobody knows they're there, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just it comes down to a question of, obviously the space is there for the business, but it would require eliminating the cost per gallon, which would ultimately cause harm to the main tenant, Bronco Energy. So it really looks like, from the existing sign that was set up probably at one point for that second tenant, and whether or not they ever thought they would get one or would need that space, they added in or use that space for the cost per gallon. So, okay.
I have nothing further. Does anybody on the board want to make a motion to close the public meeting?
I, Michelle Podium, did it again. Move to close the public hearing.
Brendan Riley, second.
Second, thank you. All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Brendan Riley, aye.
Please.
Sorry, Sandy.
Aye. Michelle, are you in favor of closing the public hearing?
Yeah, Michelle Bodie and I.
Okay, thank you. So thoughts from the board with regard to what's been brought forward by the owners of 34 Main, or on their behalf by the sign agent.
I like the new logo.
I do too, actually.
I don't think that's what you meant, but that's my feedback. I mean, it sounds like there's a financial hardship if you had to space out the pull out portions of this, have two signs. I don't even know if two signs are permitted. And then obviously not being able to advertise would be a challenge. It doesn't, I get, numerically, we need to grant the variance, but this doesn't look that different than anything else on the street.
Well, that's ultimately the saving grace, that it is, even as you go along Main, it's already has established its identity with its existing logo, and despite all of the town effort, there's the idea that they're all commercial. Seemingly, there is always a bit of a hodgepodge, but I will note, my view is it's a cleaner look, the proposed sign. As it's situated on the lot and the way in which it is facing, it doesn't. That's the interesting thing about the way in which it's facing. It doesn't really suggest to me that it's going to be that much of a change from what's already there, and it's not ostentatious as might be the case. The only risk, the only overriding concern is that it's it's a further allowance of non-conformance, but toothpaste out of the tube, out of the tube. It's not running ramshot over what is already on the lot, especially. And it's understandable, as Michelle noted, that, and I think Brendan said as much, is that the nature of the business, the need to be able to maintain the price per gallon on the sign is, a big part of their inherent advertising or promotion. So that could rise to, I think, a sufficient economic hardship if they had to eliminate that. But obviously, as noted by Michelle just a moment ago, if you can't advertise your business, that being the other two parties, they're going to suffer the same hardship. Does the board have anything else to add to the conversation within the deliberation at this time?
I would just like to see if Mr. Spinney I know Jerry was on earlier. He mentioned that his calculations were around like 13.5 square feet was the variance we're seeking. On our notes here, we have 16.5. Do you have can we just confirm it correct?
I concur with Jerry on it. I try to always not underestimate. I overestimate on everything.
Sure. Okay, so 13.5 is your correct requested variance.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Brendan. Does anybody else have anything to add to within the board's consideration?
Appreciate that he's asking permission and didn't just build. Just wanna.
Well, we're going to live in town now, so we need to make sure everybody does the right thing.
Appreciate that. Within the board, does anybody want to move to close the hearing of our consideration of the matter, or bring a call for a vote?
Yeah, I'm ready to call for a vote. Others are okay.
All right, thank you, Michelle.
I'm sorry, we said 13.5?
13.5.
Right. I, Michelle Bodian, move to grant a 13.5 square foot variance for the freestanding site at 34 Main Street, North Reading, map 23, parcel 25.
Can I get a second?
Brendan Riley. Third.
Everyone, thank you, Brenda. Hearing that, all in favor of the motion to allow the 13.5 square foot variance?
Michelle Bodian, I.
Brendan Riley, aye.
Bob Green, aye. Thank you, board. That being the vote on the matter. Once again, Kathy, if you could state for the record, the process going forward for 34 Main Street.
Thank you.
Once the decision is signed by members, stamped in with the town clerk, the 20-day appeal period will start then. I'll send you a notice when that should expire too.
Great.
Then you go and get it recorded.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone, for the time and effort. And I'm glad we got it all together tonight, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, and good luck with the project. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Final matter on tonight's agenda is regarding 40 Elm Street. Are the parties for 40 Elm with us this evening?
Joseph Keys on behalf of the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Just a moment. A matter that was continued from July 11th to this evening. A virtual public hearing will be held on the petition Joseph T. Keys, counsel, representative for Alvin Ping Wong, 112 Bolton Road, Harvard, Mass, for a variance from the west side lot line for a stone wall for the property located at 40 Elm Street, map 78, parcel 57, North Reading, Mass, for the setback requirements of the dimensional and density regulations of the North Reading zoning bylaws. Attorney Keys, thank you. If you might be so kind as to inform us as to what the variance is regarding the request.
Sure thing. Kathy, do you mind pulling up the plot plan? Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Again, my name is Joseph Keys. I'm an attorney here in town located at 289 North Main Street, and I represent the property owner, Alvin Wong. Title to the property right now is held by Wong S Development, LLC. And the property in question is 40 Main Street. It's right on Route 62 as you're headed toward Middleton on the right-hand side, probably a half mile in front of the Thompson Country Club. So we're here tonight to request to grant a variance, and this is a technicality. I spoke to the building inspector about this last week. We're not actually looking for a variance from the dimensional and density setbacks. We're looking for a variance from the requirements of section 200-63 of the Town of North Reading zoning bylaws regarding accessory structures. If you look at that section, you'll see that retaining walls are labeled as an accessory structure. So that's the bylaw that we need to be under for this variance. The owner purchased this property in 2021. And as with all rehabs in town, when someone's flipping a property or building a new property on an old lot, one of the things they have to do is replace the septic system. The septic system at 40 Elm Street was a cesspool, didn't meet the requirements of Title V. So we are required to meet those requirements and put in a new septic system. The septic system plans originally show a fieldstone wall being built along that westerly lot line. The owner instead had built or has already put in a set of concrete blocks. They're approximately 2 feet high, 2 feet wide, about 6 feet long. The wall's approximately 6 feet in height right now on its highest point down to grade, and runs along the westerly side yard between 40 Elm Street and 42 Elm Street, approximately 60 feet before turning easterly back into the lot and then turning away from the lot line. There aren't any plans to make this retaining wall any higher than it already is. And I submitted some pictures to the board, so you can take a look at those as well. Kathy, if you have those. So there's the wall right there running down the lot line. And then this is a picture from the 42 Elm Street, essentially at the very tail end of this, of the wall. And part of that, you can appreciate the drop off in grade as you're going back towards there. Behind there, the green vegetation and that tree right there is as you can see the fencing. We have wetland issues as well, so we've been before conservation regarding that. And I think we have one last picture. There we go. That's basically looking from the back of the wall, looking back up towards Elm Street from the bottom, so you can see it as it goes up. So it's a pretty significant drop off. So in May of this year, the applicant received a violation notice from the building inspector regarding the placement of the retaining wall. And we were given the choice of appealing that decision The applicant came to me, we talked about it. I talked to Jerry about it, and it was a better idea to come before the board to request a variance for the wall. As I stated before, the topography of the lot is such that the owner needs the front of the lot to site the septic system. Because of the wetlands in the back and the steep drop off, there's really no other place to put this septic system. And like I said before, the cesspool was a much smaller system, and with the septic system nowadays, we need a spot for drainage and a leach field, and that's where the leach field is going to go, which is the reason that we had to make this retaining wall to hold everything in, and we had to essentially raise the grade of our lot. So as you can see from the plot plan, we got the wetland issue behind the house. The front of the house at the street sits at an elevation of 192 feet and drops off as you approach. If you see the intermittent stream about halfway down the lot, that's at an elevation of 180. So there's a 12-foot drop across that half of that lot as it goes back. And it's a pretty narrow lot, as all of those lots are along Elm Street. Like I said before, the town of North Reading classifies retaining walls as an accessory structure. So therefore, the bylaw states that a accessory structure shall not be less than 20 feet from the front lot. They don't even call it a lot line. It says 20 feet from the front street line, and it can't be less than 10 feet from any other lot line and shall not exceed 20 feet in height. So because where we need to put this septic system, that's our hardship. We can't put it anywhere else on the lot. So originally, if you look at my request, I think I asked originally for a 0 foot variance. We don't need that. When we submitted everything, we had a kind of a timing issue where we had to get everything into Kathy, and then a day or two later, we got this plot plan. So I asked for what I asked for, and then we put the plot plan in, and we're actually asking for a little bit less of a variance than we had originally advertised. So what we're asking for is a variance of 18 feet from the front street line and a variance of 19 feet from the westerly side yard setback per section 263 of the zoning bylaws. It's my understanding that the neighbors are concerned with the type of wall that's constructed. We want to be very sensitive to what it looks like. And I know that originally we were saying it's a fieldstone wall, and our plan is to make it look like a fieldstone wall when we're done. Kathy, do you mind pulling up the other PDFs that I sent? And essentially, we can make it, if you want to scroll through these, Kathy, we can make it look any of these, whatever the neighbor wants it to look like, in accordance with any of these pictures. We're happy to make it look exactly like one of these things. We can put in the veneers, and it will look, once everything's all finished, it'll look like a regular fieldstone wall. Additionally, if the neighbors would like some screening, they want some trees put up, they want some bushes to break up the wall, we're happy to do that. We're happy to work with them in any way that, they feel that they, because it's not what they're used to. The original house had been there for years and years, and this is obviously something new. So we want to be very aware of that. We want to do the right thing by the neighbors as much as we can. We want to make the impact as minimal as possible. So that's about it. Like I said, our hardship is that we have wetlands issues, and there's really no other place to put the septic system. We have septic system approval from the town. And we, like I said, we're before Concom for the wetland issues. So we have all that squared away. This is the last piece of the puzzle. If we get an approval from the board, we can then go to Mr. Noel and we can submit our engineering plans for the wall. We can get those approved. We can get the septic system in, and then we can get the house finished. Because I know the house has just been sitting there, not worked on for a number of months. We're kind of at a standstill about this issue. If the board or any of the neighbors have any questions, I'm happy to answer anything that I can do, or answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Yeah, put it on.
It's on. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Jim Dale, 42 Elm Street. There.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you. Please keep going.
As far as concerning the wall is built directly on the property line, 6 inches off the line. And all the maintenance has to be performed from my property line. And as far as the pictures that they gave you, the pictures are wrong. Because there are gaps in the wall, there are no cornerstones on the wall, and the wall is poorly constructed. The wall has a pitch of more than 18 inches at the street level, because the wall's already kicked in, because they don't have footings. It's on grade. It's on also a high water table with loomy soil beneath it.
I don't know if you can see this picture with the gap, with a hole in it. They didn't show you that.
So if I may, I believe that all of those issues that you're bringing up, we would need to address with the building inspector prior to getting any kind of permit. We're here tonight.
The wall is already leaning.
Right, the wall's already pitched.
I'm not arguing about the condition of the wall or anything else like that. We can't do anything to the wall until we get a variance, if it's granted, and then we need to go before the building inspector, who is your major ally with the construction and how it's made. And he's going to address all of those issues before he finalizes and allows anybody to move into that property. He's got to go through and inspect the whole property, including the construction of this wall. I don't want to speak for the building inspector, but I suspect that would be the answer that he would give you.
Right. Well, we're kind of new to this. Sorry about that. But,
No.
Well,
right.
We're concerned about failure of this wall because no wall lasts forever.
Right. Plus, there is a leaching field behind it, and there is seepage. There is a water table issue,
And any maintenance is on our property.
and also snow removal. So the driveway line will be along the wall, and all snow removal will be pushed across the property line onto bushes, existing soil, and I mean, I do take pride in my property.
I don't disagree with you, but I think that's an assumption that you would think that the property owner would show.
Well, even if there were veneers put on, probably would pull over on our top property
Well,
line.
it'd have to be the work zone. I mean, I've done construction in the past, but I mean, a work zone for concrete is usually about 10 feet. So that would roll it right into my property. And last thing I want is, a bunch of, concrete, veneer, whatever. And veneer doesn't last. It's like people with, veneer teeth. They look horrible. Okay. And
You're just trying to cover up
right. And it does affect the value of our home in the future.
It's a hardship for us selling our house with that. So we have a hardship too.
Because we are, and plus there was an existing home, and I built homes with Ray Sanderson from Wakefield. And if there were issues, we'd put the septic in, before the home, or we'd have it engineered properly. And the house is built, and then they did the engineering. That's right. That's kind of the reverse way of doing things.
He said the engineers had a hard time designing this.
And there's no way, because they came after the home was built. And no one does it, because it's loomy soil. I mean, the whole place is built on wetlands.
And just another question of Bay State, whatever the company that put that up, don't they know they need a building permit to put this in there? Like, how did they get away with doing that?
Doing what?
Putting up a structure like this without a building permit.
Again, I don't want to speak for Mr. Noel, but I believe that they have a permit to build the house.
Not for this wall, they don't. Not for the stone wall, they don't.
Because it is directly on the property line.
And he knew exactly what he was doing, because we came home to Mark's survey of Mark.
They had surveyed it because the original owner had said that the property line had gone along with the tree line, and he was wrong. He was mistaken. He had been there since 1956. So there wasn't. I had put a stone wall up, a dry wall in the front of the property. So I moved it all back. I did all the right things. I shot the lines, and did everything right. And then I came home to this monstrosity, and it should have been a fieldstone wall, a mason wall, not highway barrier.
It wasn't discussed with us at all. He knew exactly what he was doing.
And he did send us a text stating that he was wrong and should have, informed us. And we have never spoken to him prior to this in the 2 years he owned the house, prior to what he did,
He only contacted us after we put the complaint in.
after the fact.
Okay, so what do you guys want to see happen?
Push the wall back 10 feet.
Well, we can't do that because we can't fit a septic system in if we
That's
push
not
a
our
septic
But that's
problem.
not
That's not-
his problem should not become
He
my
should have
problem.
thought of that. He had 3 years. We had a clear lot. The lot was clear. And now he's trying to put in a septic system at the end.
Because he built the house too large for the property.
That you can't make it our
I
problem.
mean, we were just talking about how narrow the property lines are and how, narrow the lots are. Well,
He
the house
said
is-
he would not put the wall as close to the lot line unless we had to. The retaining wall had to go up in that spot because we could only manage to fit it in that corner. You had a clear lot. How could that be?
I appreciate your public comments and appreciate you taking the time to come. I just want to ask a couple of questions of the representative. Is this an accurate statement that the house was designed and built before the septic? I guess, can you walk us through the order of events here of how this is the only location for the septic and therefore the wall?
So the original septic was in the front of the house. The house, to the best of my knowledge, the existing house is built on the footprint of the old house. So there's really been no change in the actual footprint of the house. Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong about that. This is the
It's
same
not.
spot.
Completely wrong.
It's not.
Completely wrong.
It's
The
not.
house is set back further, plus the length and width are completely different. The original house is probably 36 feet in length along the roadside and about 24 feet in depth towards the rear. It's a typical ranch 1956 2-bedroom. That was the original plan. They put an addition on in 1961 that was block, and that addition was 20 by 22 with no footings. I know the entire history of the home. I've been here for 36 years.
I appreciate that. Jerry, are you able to speak at all if you recall or no?
Recall, are we speaking about the house or are we speaking about the wall? What do we?
Starting with just the house, I just want to understand how we got to where the wall is. So is the house already, more or less built, and is it larger than the existing footprint? I guess I understand the wall's where it is because of the septic, but the septic's where it is because of the house. So I think we got to follow the chain back to figure out if the house is in the exact same footprint as in this drawing, or has it moved? Is it bigger? And
We had them do an overlay for their footprint for which they have.
okay.
Their design professional did an overlay. The footprint isn't bigger, but the house is a heck of a lot bigger. That house is.
I hate to argue with you, but you're completely wrong. Okay, I have pictures of the house, hundreds of pictures.
I'm only telling you what I received from the design
Right,
professional.
the design is a liar, all right? I hate to state it like that, but that's what it is. All these homes on 62 were built the same way by the same builder from Wakefield. His name was, I can't think of his name offhand, but he just died recently. And the footprint is smaller than the home I live in now. Okay? And there's no way.
I'm sorry, the footprint of the new house or the old house is
The old
smaller than
house. We're
yours?
talking about the original home right now. And if you're trying to say it's the original footprint, that's just ridiculous.
I am
Because the
telling
original
you,
footprint of these homes with 36 by 20.
we received an overlay relative to the size of the previous house to this house. What we are discussing here is not the house, the size of the house. We're discussing the wall.
Right, but the wall is based on the size of the home that they built, and that's why they're having difficulty putting it in.
No,
They tore down the
just
original home.
as a point, the wall is there for the septic system. It has nothing to do with the house. The wall is required because.
Well, she's asking why the septic was designed at the end of building the house is what she asked.
Right.
Why does it have to be in that spot? Because the size of the house is too big. I know we're talking about the wall, but the wall, it didn't have to go in that corner, and it doesn't have to go in that corner, and we don't want it right next on our property
'Cause
line.
all the maintenance of this wall will have to be performed on my property.
I guess
And
let
I
me ask the
realize-
question, appreciate
Sure.
that. Let me ask the question a different way. Is there any other place to put the septic?
Not now.
Sorry, let
Probably-
me ask it to the owner's
This problem is
attorney.
not my problem. But why should it be my problem, rather?
Not
Yeah,
without an
fair.
extensive hardship due to the fact of the slope of the property and the existing wetlands in the back. There's no other place to put the septic system except in the front of the house.
And
That,
you should have built a smaller
he
home.
should have built a smaller home. He should have put the septic in before he built the house.
But we submitted plans that has the same footprint as the old house.
It's
So
not the same
I
It's
thing.
not
don't
the same
follow
as
your
this,
logic.
but
Yeah,
It's my house.
It's not.
appreciate that.
So he can just do whatever he wants. He can just put, whatever, go ahead.
I mean, we're talking it out. So this is step one, is talking through this as the board. So is the septic in the same footprint it had been, or has it moved locations?
Well,
to
the Title V septic system is naturally bigger than the smaller cesspool that was there. The cesspool was in the front of the house. The reason that we need the wall is because the septic system is a much larger system than the old one, and you need a larger footprint to put the leach field in, which, you know, we can't just put the leach field under a mound and have any hope that there's going to not be any breakout. The septic system requires, and I know we had this, there was a couple of comments about it earlier. There, you know, again, if the wall is approved, Mr. Noel has to come in and approve all of the engineering on the wall. He has to approve the finished product of the wall, what it looks like, if there's any gaps in the wall, all of the concerns that you brought up with the actual quality of the wall will be under Mr. Noel's purview. That's number one. Number two, when the septic system is designed, they have to pass all of the Title V septic requirements for a septic system, which means that on the inside of that wall, there needs to be a non-permeable rubber membrane so that there is no breakout onto your side or onto your property. All of those things, all of those checklist things, all of those benchmarks are inspected and by the Board of Health, by the building inspector, and all of those things are done for your protection by the town. And you know, it's not just for you, it's for the new existing or the proposed owner of the property once he lists the property for sale. Everything's got to work right. You know, I was brought on to this project about 2 months ago, so I can't, other than from what I've looked at, the plans I've seen down at Town Hall, I can't give you a timeline as to what was submitted first and what was submitted second. All I can tell you is that they've been before Concom, they've been before the Board of Health, they have all of those approvals and or they're working through all of those approvals with those boards. We're doing everything, as far as I know. I think the town's happy with everything that we've done. Have we put in the wall before we should have? Probably. Yeah, it's not finished yet though. I understand your complaints. The wall's not done.
I want to give sorry, Jerry, someone raised their hand to speak. It just looks like a dial-in number.
Yes, I believe that might be my client who's overseas. So if he's here, Alvin, is that you?
Okay. Oh, there we go.
Hi, my name is Alvin Wong. I'm the owner of the property, 40 Elm Street. So we did submit septic plans with our original application. So those were approved long ago. Also, we did contact the neighbor at 42 Elm Street
No, you did not.
regarding
You did not. I
retaining
have it
wall
right here.
before it's put in.
I have it right here, May 23rd, Thursday.
No, that,
No, that's
I
after you
understand, but
receive,
that-
it
that-
says
that-
right here, after you received the complaint, you gave this to us. You did not contact your
Let's-
library.
If I,
let's
if
give him
I,
an
if I
opportunity
may,
to speak.
if I may,
sorry,
if I may
I
here, this is the building commissioner. If I may, I never would have given you a permit to build that wall on that lot line. Because it's not part of the zoning, it's not part of our zoning bylaws, period. So what we're talking about here is a wall that where it is should not be there. So I think we need to discuss the wall itself and discuss the zoning bylaws. We need to stop throwing dots. And that's all I have to say. If you could please move on, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, noted. I just want to give the property owner an opportunity to finish speaking. And then I think we're going to be in a position, I don't want to speak for Bob, to close the public hearing. And move it to board discussion, but I do just want to give the property owner the opportunity to speak.
Um,
thank you. I appreciate that. So as I was saying,
Question of whether a wall,
I did,
as described into the bylaws and as pointed out by Inspector Noel, this is for a stone wall, and the reason the matter has come before the board, again, was the violation notice. That this existing wall that exists, that was put up, wasn't a wall as that could be put on the property line as might a fence or a stone wall, or separation from one property line to the next. And the question before the board is, whether a variance for that wall. And now it seems as if we're coming in now and saying, well, there seems to, I think even Attorney Keys acknowledged that this isn't a question of a wall. Now it's a retaining wall, and effectively coming before the board as an accessory structure. But, you know, the petition before the board, for purposes of this matter, was whether the stone wall to meet the setback requirements, and as noted in the violation notice, the purposes of the wall as set forth under the bylaws, just for purposes of a wall, they were noticed as being in violation. Now, with regard to whether or not we're now going to change the conversation and say, well, that was one thing, but it's really another. For clarification, and I appreciate Inspector Noel pointing it out. You know, the wall was never, this wall was never appropriate for this purpose. So as he said, there was no permit for the construction of it in and of itself. The reason I'm bringing this up is because there's an underlying problem that exists because what has been installed was a retaining wall. And that has a totally different nature and brings forward a lot of issues and information that I'm not too sure all the parties are, the moving party, that being 34, excuse me, Elm Street, can answer. Even Attorney Keys noted that he's only been in the matter for 2 months. When was it? I mean, there's discussion whether, you know, the design of the construction of the house that is being built, that did it fit a footprint? Who knows? An overlay, the positioning of the new septic system, the replaced septic system, the size of it, all these things are going into this. And I think for the board, just for purposes of tonight, you know, are we comfortable with changing the entire purpose of the matter to being an accessory structure for that, or whether or not this is sufficient information to weigh that versus what was the noted violation that brought this before the board, that being the construction of what was described as a stone wall in the hearing notice.
Can I just back up?
This is
Can I just back up for 1 second, Mr.
Sure.
Green?
Please.
Because I'm not sure, I'm not sure what you're asking, number one. And if we go back to the applicant saying that he submitted all of his plans all at the same time, including the septic construction plan, which was approved. And if you, and I know it's not part of the board's purview, if you were to look at the septic plans that were approved, the septic plans called for a retaining wall along that lot line. So in any event, to conform to what's required by conservation and by the Board of Health, we need to put in a wall. We have to put in a wall there. Those are all of the approved plans include that wall. So we're looking for a variance of 18 feet, and I believe, where'd it go? 18 feet from the front street line and 19 feet from the westerly side yard setback for the installation of this wall.
At that time, a request for the retaining wall to be placed where it actually has been placed. Because it seems to me what you're telling me is that everyone was put on notice that the septic was going to go there and a retaining wall was going to be needed. But at that time, nobody said, well, where are we going to place the retaining wall? So all of a sudden, the septic is put in, the retaining wall is put in, and now you're coming in after the fact and acting for the variance. Tell me if I've got that out of order, please. I'd appreciate that. Because the wall seems to be in place. So all these plans that you just noted that were submitted, at no time did they say, oh, and by the way, the retaining wall is going to go right on the property line. And it's going
Well,
to
I would
be you know, the neighbor.
I would respectfully submit that.
And that had been approved, then maybe you're not before the board tonight. But I'm not too sure if maybe I'm missing something. Jerry, if you can add something to this with your experience and understanding of the process. Because if that's the case, then there doesn't seem to be much question, because if the retaining wall was acknowledged as being needed at the time the plans were submitted, and they had acknowledged that it was going to go in this position right on this property line, then why would there even be a need for a variance? Or if you were told at that time, but in order to put the wall there, then you're going to have to go before the board, get the variance before the installation occurred, which isn't the case because the wall is there.
If I may, there was.
This process, am I in error?
If I may, there was a stone wall that was on, if I recall, there was a stone wall that was submitted on a septic plan. And any retaining wall under Mass General Law, governed by, if my memory serves me correctly, 404.4, promulgated by Mass General Law 143, basically states any retaining wall that has a surcharge of unbalanced fill of over 2 feet is required to have a design plan from a design professional. And that wall shall not go into anything such as a foundation. So that would pertain to this. If that helps answer your question.
The record on this construction, Jerry, to your understanding, at the time that, as council put it, the plan was submitted and approved and all of these things, was there any request submitted for the placement of the wall effectively actually where it is? Or I understand that there was a stone wall there, but let's not, I'm trying to get an understanding of what one party called a wall, which someone else might even call, you know, effectively a purpose of it is that of a fence, and which you probably would not be in violation, as opposed to this isn't the same kind of stone wall that existed before this construction, and that this is now a wall of a different nature, effectively a retaining wall. And again, it comes under a totally different set of requirements, placement, compliance. Or am I just not following you on that?
No, that is correct. The
So
wall should,
their ability to put a wall to replace the wall that was there. My grasp of this is that they didn't replace the wall that was there, which was a stone wall separating the properties. They put in a retaining wall. And now, you know, this isn't, then they're two distinctly different things that come under two clearly, not only under the bylaws, but also under other code that you just noted for obvious purposes.
and the reason why I noted the code is because no, they did not come before me to ask for a permit to put a wall in. And additionally, I didn't see the wall at first. It was my inspector that saw it. And then after I saw the wall, I went and I knocked on the door and I spoke to Geraldine, and I told her, I said, I couldn't believe that they installed that wall there without a permit. And then here we are.
Okay, so thank you. So I think I'm following up on Board Member Bodian's point, Council, which is, yes, the plans were submitted and the acknowledgement was made of a retaining wall, but there doesn't seem to be any, I haven't heard anybody say that it was going to be placed where your
Bob,
client has actually placed it.
Bob,
And if you're going to, before you, and if the point is that, well, it's not a matter of that, because it has to be, it required a retaining wall, so this is the only place that it could have gone. Was the town put on notice of that, or was it just an assumption that is made by the parties? Because that's where, you know, if that's the case, then I'll go back to what Inspector Noel just mentioned, which was he was given no notice of the retaining wall's placement on the property as it was. I understand what you're telling. I think what you, correct me if I'm wrong, I think what you're telling us is that plan submitted noted the placement of the septic system and that a retaining wall was going to be needed, and is common or the usual practice. But it still is a practical question as to where is this all going to be placed relative to not only the construction of the property, the house, but also inherently, or maybe more importantly, for all intents and purposes, the effect on the neighboring properties.
So I think what the issue here is that the septic system plans show a fieldstone wall, and we're going back and forth between defining a wall versus a retaining wall. And I'm going to let my client speak here as well in a minute, but if we built this out of fieldstone or started the construction out of fieldstone, I don't think that we would ever be here tonight, because I don't think it would have popped up on anybody's radar. Due to the fact that we changed the material of the retaining wall, and I think it's important that we call it a retaining wall, because I believe that the plans submitted to the Board of Health for the septic system calls it a retaining wall. And I believe that we originally, you know, and this is maybe where we lost this in the semantics of all of this. Everybody was like, well, it's a wall. So in a wall, I can build right on the lot line. Anybody can build a wall right on the lot line, or a fence right on the lot line. And I think everybody operated under that assumption. As soon as the blocks went in, we're all now talking about a retaining wall. And you know, it's, I believe that no matter what you build it with, you know, I think the proper way to term it is a retaining wall. I believe that all the plans submitted with the town and everything else calls it a wall. And I'd have to go back and look at the, and I don't believe I have a copy of it here. I know that I looked at it down at Town Hall as to exactly what oh, I think I do have it right here. Give me just a minute. I got it. Hold on just 1 minute, please. Have a copy of the septic plan, and the septic plan simply I believe it, I'm looking here and again, it's a tough read because I don't have a great copy of this. And Alvin, if you want to chime in on this, I'm looking at the subsurface sewage disposal system notice of intent plan that was filed with the town in December of 2021. There's a stone wall there, and it says wall. It doesn't say retaining wall. So the engineer's reading of the zoning bylaws said, you know, looks at it and it's a wall. So we can build a wall all the way up to the lot line. Alvin, correct me if I'm wrong there.
Can you ask that question one more time, please?
So the septic plans call it a wall, which is why we didn't think we needed to come before the board originally. And Mr. Breen, I believe this is your question.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't we come originally when we submitted all the plans asking for this variance before we put the wall in?
That would be the preferred path.
Right. So
the first time this board has run into this with other.
Right. So, and again, going off of the septic plans, calling it just a wall, now that I'm looking at them, it says wall. You know, the zoning bylaws say that a wall can be built, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Noel, right up to the lot line. But the nature of the wall that's in there now, and I don't want to, I mean, we're not fighting, we're trying to be a good neighbor here. You know, it's you know, the nature of it is a retaining wall. I mean, we can always, I mean, and again, I would like to defer to my client. You know, we can go back to square one and build a fieldstone wall, and we can all call it a wall, and we can withdraw our application if that's what the board wants us to do. Alvin, do you have anything to add on that?
I have one thing to add. I'm Jim Dale. If you were to build a stone wall, as you say, a masonry stone wall on the property line, all that work would have to be performed on my property. Period. There's no question about that. It'd be it's a 10-foot work zone.
We'd be responsible for the maintenance of that wall always.
Right. Well, not so much
Well,
that, but it's
it-
just the damage and everything else goes along with this. And the wall you did put up, you never even asked a question. You just installed it. In the pictures you showed, quite frankly, I have pictures to counteract that show the real wall.
We have pictures. There was never a stone wall there. It was a buffer zone of trees and bushes that were just ripped out. There was no wall. There was trees and bushes.
And I have photographs.
We have photographs of
document
everything.
So it's not as if it's, you know, hearsay. It's photographs. They don't lie.
Bob,
Yes.
can I add to
Okay.
this?
So
Can you add what?
I just looked into the building permit and the septic plan. And I'm gonna share this septic plan with you.
Please, thank you, Kathy.
Yeah,
if
thank you,
look-
Kathy.
If you look right here on the property line, here's the 100-foot buffer, 75-foot wetland
Wait,
offset.
sorry, do you mind zooming, Kathy, so we could take our heads all out of our screens? Thank you.
Yeah, it's hard to read, so if I missed something, I apologize.
So this says proposed retaining wall with.
There it is, there it is.
So forth, okay?
Yep,
This says proposed addition, and this says proposed addition. And this plan is dated. Last revised 1/26/22. And I want to share another memo that was in the building, file. It was from Mr. Bracy. I think it might have been from the foundation. It was from the foundation. Okay. Okay, this plan is dated 3/7/23. So that was for the addition. And then there's a memo I have to find, but this is where it came back for the house. And I'm gonna zoom in. Still says proposed wall.
The height changed on that one, Kathy, if that, just point of noting it, went from
Height,
3
yeah.
feet to 5 feet.
On the wall.
On the wall.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, maximum height 5 feet. Nail hammer on.
Yeah, the previous drawing had it at 3.
Okay.
and the detail, Kathy, that they're referring to, I think is in the top left-hand corner. So if you scroll up and there it is.
Oh, right here. Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I was reading off of. It says wall there. I didn't see the other one up on the right-hand side when I first picked this up a minute ago.
So, I think what happened here is that it was part of the septic or Board of Health file and wasn't realized when it was.
Right, and I guess that's what I was trying to say. Thanks for clarifying it, Kathy. I mean, we had everything approved through the Board of Health. We didn't really think that, you know, it's right there on the plans that it's on the lot line or very close there too.
How close, looking back at those original drawings, a foot, what we're talking about? Half a
Well, the problem with the septic design plans is that they don't really tell you exactly where the wall sits in relation to the lot line, which is why we submitted the certified plot plan, and the closest is 1 foot off of the lot line, right where the blocks sit now.
But the height is 7 feet with the cap at the highest point off of grade.
Where are you seeing that?
So I will not seeing it, so what it actually measures now behind, all the way down the far end before it takes that sharp right turn inwards.
Yeah.
It's 6 feet now. And if you put a cap on it, I'm assuming the cap would be at least 6 inches. I mean, 12 inches, just because the way it all sits. So you're looking at 7 feet of wall without footings on loose soil. And if you dig down, you'll find water 18 inches. And that's, you can dig down now, you'll find water during a drought. I had 2 sump pumps to prove it.
I get that. Respectfully, that's not what we're here for.
Right,
We're
right.
here
But
for
my point being, though, is nothing is right here. Nothing is right. Nothing was ever followed through with the original plans. Otherwise, I would have objected originally.
I just have a question about the survey of marks that was surveyed because he needed the extra space. Why was the survey, it only surveyed on one corner of the property?
Right. I mean, to get a legal survey, you need 4 points.
We came home to survey marks on our property. It had to be, I don't know how many feet that is. We have pictures, about 12 feet. Because he needed the space and never spoke to us about it.
I'm not doubting the survey, but to get a legal survey is actually 4 points. At one point, one corner survey is not a legal survey. I mean, that's what kicked all this off, was when I saw that. And I spoke to Alvin about it that same day. He was there with his father, and I said, Alvin, I said, what's this? And he just said, well, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't aware of this. And I'm sure he was, because, you know, what surveyor wouldn't contact his client and say, hey, this is the issue. And then the wall went up 2 weeks later, and there's an excavator. I mean,
Situation, I don't want anybody to summarize this for me.
it's a sad situation.
I keep hearing some other kind of noise going on. Is that because Mr. Dale, I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm getting interrupted. I can't really hear everything that you're saying.
Yeah, it's not on this end. There's no one here but us. My wife.
I think Bob's
Bob
having
is trying to
technical
speak.
difficulty, so he's coming in through Kathy's phone, I guess.
Okay. All right. That's what's throwing me off.
This is Chair Brady. Okay. I'm trying to move through all of this, and I appreciate any input from Michelle and Brendan and Attorney Keys and Kathy. So it seems as though one set of plans was submitted, and on that set of plans, there was stone wall, but when the septic plan, the plan that went from held with the purposes of, you know, that required a retaining wall, but didn't really delineate or appropriately know where that could be placed, perhaps under our bylaws, or it was just, the purpose was to exhibit it. And when when the property began to be built, they took wall to literally one set, intended it to be one thing, they needed it for another thing, and a retaining wall was installed. And that's as close as I can get. And so yes, it would appear that in one set of permitted and approved plans, the retaining wall was noted and you know, acknowledged as being needed, but it didn't seem to delineate or correctly suggest the process of where it could actually be placed under our bylaws. I mean, and that answers the question as to why they felt like they could put it in, but now it begs the question as to whether it should have been put in.
So
Brendan,
if I may, and just Mr. and Mrs. Dale, would it be beneficial if the parties were to sit down, if we asked for a continuance on this matter, and during that time, you and the owner and you guys sit down at my office and see if there's any kind of happy medium that we can reach, and maybe come back before the board in 2 weeks and see if we can agree on something, and this is what we all agreed to and we're fine with it, or at least try that and come back in 2 weeks and say, no, we can't agree on that. Is that something you guys would be willing to do?
I don't know. We just wanted it done right from the beginning. We don't want the wall on our property.
I guess what I'm saying is that, we
we
have an opportunity now to make things as right as we possibly can, and we can get the engineer involved. We can try and figure something out here.
I guess we don't have a choice. I mean,
this is Dale. Before you answer that question, members Bodie and, I mean, Michelle and Brendan, I mean, I'm just trying to get a sense of how are you hearing this matter?
Yeah, I can share my thoughts. I mean, regardless of were they ignoring the rules, did they not know the rules? I guess I'm putting all that aside. Here we have a wall. I agree on the maintenance issue with no easement in place to be performing that maintenance. Walls are going to have issues, and whether it's this owner or the next, I'm uncomfortable with it being, whether it's a retaining wall or a house or a barn that's too close. And we've made others redesign their plans as a result and move it further back. Like this on its face is too close for me. Especially, and even if we came back and said the neighbor's okay with it, magically you're all fine here, I would still have grave concerns short of some type of maintenance easement in place in perpetuity.
We could certainly work on that. That's a great idea.
Brendan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we've, just as you've touched base upon, we've seen matters like this come before the board in the past. I mean, in order to get permitted, we have an architect, we had a civil engineer that designed the septic. They all would have known or should have known what our bylaws are, what the required setbacks are. It just seems to me that whether they were overlooked or ignored, and now here we are in this predicament. I do like the idea that you did bring up of some type of maintenance agreement in perpetuity, but you know, to the abutters points, and Jerry, that wall has been put up. It wasn't permitted, it wasn't inspected, we don't know how it's constructed. So there's some issues there with that. The abutters did note that it is leaning or potentially failing currently. That brings up some grave concerns, and it is very, very close to the property line.
I don't think that's giving a variance, though, not to say we're saying we're going to.
Correct.
I mean, this
Yeah.
current wall has to stay. I mean, they could take it down and build a whole new one
build a
to
whole new one
everybody's
and-
liking.
Exactly.
But even if they did that, it's, you know, inches, inches from the line.
Correct.
So if the parties were open to meeting and trying to present it, I would entertain that idea, although this close in its current form is a huge problem, and we've, you know, certainly asked others to shorten the distance, and I would ask the same here. 1 foot is, even with an easement, not, you know, it's one. That's not a lot.
Based on the feedback I'm getting, I mean, I think that, you know, at least from the applicant's point of view, is to ask for a continuance, take on board, you know, the points that you guys both just made, and see if we can sit down with the neighbor and, like I said, come up with a better solution to this.
Bob, you still with us?
Yep, may I speak here? Hello?
Oh, Mr. Wong?
Go ahead.
Yes, may I speak real quick?
Yeah.
So I would just like to say, I believe that variance, that setback variance might have been overlooked, that bylaw might have been overlooked. But based on that plan, that retaining wall, what we thought is directly on that lot line. And that plan, that septic plan, is overlaid onto their certified plot plan that the engineer did. I mean, we're open to having a meeting, we're open to a maintenance agreement, whatever we need to do to make the neighbor happy.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
If I may, I spoke with your engineer of record. He argued with me that a wall is a wall. I told him a wall is not that's a retaining wall. Retaining wall is a structure. That's a structure sitting on a lot line. He disagreed. So I basically had to show him relative to our zoning bylaws. And I also sent a copy to the engineer relative to your plan. I'm not trying to throw a wrench into this. I'm just trying to be as honest and forthright as I can.
I can speak to him as well,
Right.
Jerry, and back you up on that. Yeah, I mean, because that was, you know, that's, I think that that's our issue.
So I think the engineer overlooked that. He probably didn't see that in the zoning bylaw, a retaining wall is identified as an accessory structure. And regarding the build of the wall, we've had a structural engineer take a look at it and do have a letter from our structural engineer regarding the build of the wall and what needs to be done.
A letter from a structural engineer does not suffice. I would need to see the actual footing. I need to see if there's any drains. There is so much that needs to be done, especially this wall where it's in a wet environment. And what Mr. Dale said, you dig 18 inches and you hit water. That concerns me.
Okay, no problem. We're willing to do whatever you need.
So I guess at this point, Mr. Chairman, I mean, we'd like to ask for a continuance of 2 weeks and, get with the structural engineer, meet with the neighbors if they're willing, and come back at your next meeting if possible.
I've got no objection. Bob, are you still with us?
Bob, are you here?
Hang tight for some technical difficulties.
Is there any way we can meet at Town Hall, just as a personal request? Is there a reason that we're doing Zoom meetings?
Preference of the board at this point. We can certainly entertain the request to meet in person.
Oddly enough, if anybody can hear it, I can hear Bob's voice very mumbled in the background. I don't know if anybody else can hear that.
I can hear it, but it's very faint.
Better?
There you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. So, I've been trying to figure out, is practically speaking, is 2 weeks a sufficient amount of time? Mr. and Mrs. Dale, and again, I did ask the question, I don't think it was heard. Is all construction on the site a home?
I didn't catch that.
Is there no activity at the site currently?
Not with the wall. I'm
Yes.
not sure if there's being any work being done in the house itself.
Okay. Are the Dales still with us? Or Mrs. Dale?
Yes, we're here.
Okay, thank you. Do you have availability to possibly meet with Mr. Keys, the client, the owner, or within the next 2 weeks? Or I don't want to short. I don't want in any way put you under a timeline that you might not be able to keep.
That's fine.
Well, we're wide open for any time, any place.
While they might still be doing work within the house itself, time is relative, because if the wall is, of a concern, and it sounds like what you've told us tonight it is, while at the same time we want to be able to have a complete opportunity that if conditions can be met or agreements can be made, that Mr. and Mrs. Dale is 2 weeks enough
Oh, no,
time?
that's fine. I don't know if you could hear me.
So, Kathy, excuse me, Kathy, what's our August date look like?
The
We
8th,
have, the 2 appeals, 1 special permit, that's it.
Okay. Attorney Keys is 2 weeks for you and your client, a good window?
August 8th?
That's fine for me.
August 8th is fine for me.
Jerry, did you say
Fine
August
for me too.
available for you?
August 8th is available to me.
Okay. I mean, that's our next scheduled hearing date for Michelle and Brendan as well. I think we're good with that.
Well,
So-
Bob, Attorney Keys asked for in person. Is that something that you're willing to accommodate?
It's an interesting question, Kathy. It's, let's put it this way. So to meet in person, I understand. I apologize for the technical problems I've had. This is the first time I've had this situation, so that's on me. But for purposes of meeting in person, council, is that just to?
It's more of a personal preference for me. When I was on the board years ago, obviously it was before any of this technology was readily used or available. But we always seem to have no problems meeting at town hall. And again, just a personal preference. I apologize if anybody thinks that was a dig at them or anything else like that. It just I to be quite honest, dislike Zoom meetings very, very, very much. There's nothing more disconcerting addressing people, but being able to see yourself do it at the same time. I find it unnerving.
And as I talk to you on my phone in order to be heard, I can't say I disagree with you. How about this? At this time, let's keep it as August 8th for virtual, and we will. We can. I mean, unless Brendan and Michelle want to add at this moment. I mean, I'm just trying to.
I'll commit to in person.
I think it's just the town. We also have Kathy. I would imagine we'd have to, clear it with the town. But we've had good success in the past with these matters remotely. So I'm more interested in it if the parties are to meet and come to agreements, then the need for an in-person is much less.
Agreed. And I have plenty of space here at the office. I'm right across from Dairy Queen. I can take everybody out for an ice cream when we're done. We however we need to work this out, we're more than willing to do.
Bob, the only issue that I have is that that special permit, I think they already sent out their abutter notification. And it said it was a virtual meeting, but.
So virtual meeting's fine. We don't just forget I said anything. We're good.
Oh, all right.
Well, let's just let's see where you go with your conversations. If we could put it on for, how about this? We'll put it on for August 8th. Continue with the status only, and at that time you can tell us where you're at. And if it's still in a matter of disagreement, then both we can either decide at that time whether because it may require more than just, all due respect, your client and the interest of the abutters, because the town also has an interest. And I will echo what Brendan, member Riley, we've had any number of situations, council, where, and I'm sure if you sat on the board, you understand it, where people stop before they come before us. And it's never an ideal situation. They do happen, and mistakes are made, and oversights happen, and misunderstandings of the process. We're still trying to you know, in some ways it's correct, but in other times it isn't. See, people sometimes come to us prematurely to us, and then there's people that come to us well after the fact. So clarification and the need for this for your purposes as well as our own, and of course for the community. Again, Mr. and Mrs. Dale in particular, is important to address and acknowledge. So I don't want it to be anything else with that. So if we can put this over for all parties to August 8th for status on the discussions between the developer, the owner, and the other parties, Mr. and Mrs. Dale, as well as any others that are interested, and of course the town. Is that agreeable?
It's fine with me. I would just need Mr. and Mrs. Dale's phone number so that I can get a hold of them sometime next week and set something up. My client's out of town right now. I'm not sure when he's coming back. So I would imagine it's sometime early next week. We can meet later in the week next week if that works for everybody. I just need contact information. Mrs. Dale, if you don't mind giving your number to Kathy when we're done, or Kathy, you may already have it. I'm not sure. That'd be great. I just don't want to do it over an open Zoom meeting. That's all.
Okay.
Okay. So for that purpose, Kathy, if you could put this on for continue it for status, and we'll revisit and see where these conversations might be able to move the matter, and that'll be for August 8th. Thank
Okay.
you.
You want to make a?
Thank you. Go ahead.
I didn't know whether you wanted to make a motion or.
Make them up.
I'd like to move to have the matter continued for purposes of the board and the record till to August 8th for status on possible resolution or otherwise. Is there a second?
Brendan Riley, second.
Thank you, Brendan. All in favor of continuing it for status?
Sorry, just for status, not
Yes,
continuing.
for status.
Okay, then I second or third, I guess.
Second. All in favor for
Yes.
continuing into August 8th for status?
Brendan
Michelle,
Riley, aye.
Bob Green, aye. Motion carries. All right, so Attorney Keys, Mr. and Mrs. Dale, all others, we'll look to hear from everybody on August 8th. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Have a nice
Thanks so
night.
much.
Given the hour and the fact that we only had the 3 matters on the agenda for tonight, that should close all the matters. Correct. Anybody'd like to move to close the meeting?
I'm afraid to say my name, but I, Michelle Bodia, move to close the meeting.
And a second.
Brendan Riley, second.
All in favor of closing the meeting?
Michelle Bodia and I.
Brendan Riley, aye.
Bob Green, aye. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Jerry, appreciate your patience with this evening. Be interested in hearing what comes of all of this. And remember, the other matters are again for August 8th. Anything else to add, Kathy, before we go off meeting?
Nope, I don't have anything to add.
Okay, great. Thank you for the information that you pulled up during that conversation. Much appreciated. Have a good evening, everybody, and don't be afraid to, if it needed, reach out. Thank you.